welcome to another video. So, I don't know if you can see this here, but this is all wet. So, last night, I was going to blow this up, and I came over here to blow it up, and there's a puddle of water over here on the floor. And I was like, what the heck? So I started moving stuff around, and every single one of those little pockets on this whole mattress was full of water. This is last night. I cleaned it all up. The puddles of water all the way around the edge. Puddles, I mean literal puddles. There was water all the way down the back. There's puddles over there. Every single one of these cups was filled. That was all last night. I dried it all off. I cleaned it all up. And then today, this is just one night. This is all wet. This is all wet. This is all wet. Back over here. Like down on the floor on the edge. All this was sopping wet. I cleaned it all up. And after one night, it's back. The water's back. I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is just crazy levels of condensation that are creating black mold. About 7-8 years ago, I had a black mold infection in my sinuses that I had to take some really crazy medicine for a while that was super bad on my livers or kidney, I can't remember. And for the past month and a half, I've been feeling this same infection again. And it's like, I know it's black mold, but it's like, where's the black mold? I don't know. Well, the black mold's my bed. It's in my bed. It's in around all the edges of the container now. The caulking that is caulked around the edges of the container are embedded with black mold. In one night, just after cleaning everything up and getting everything dry, I thought having the door open for like 45 minutes or something like that, like at 9 o'clock at night is when I found all this. Like about ready to go to bed, find this, and then for 2 hours, clean up. And then I wake up this morning and just to check it, and the moisture is already back after one night. So this is, and you know, I was thinking, oh, well, I'll just get my bed. I've been waiting to build a bed up here, and that will solve some of the problem, maybe, I'm not sure. But, yeah. I mean, the black mold's in here now. It's in here, and it's bad, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is, I don't know if you can see it. It's all wet, all the way around. The whole edge is all wet, like a puddle. It's a puddle. And that's just after one night. Like, I haven't pulled this bed up and looked under it in, honestly, probably since I took the tent out of here, which was like a couple months ago. Haven't really washed the bedding because I got piles of bedding. I washed the bedding that touches me, but I've got a huge pile underneath there. Every single one of these. I cleaned this all last night. You can still kind of see, but they had pink and black mold. That one looks like it's still got a little more pink. I sprayed it with the killer stuff, but you know, I mean, that stuff doesn't really die. It's in the air. It's just, if the puddle goes all the way over here. So yeah, I had I had, yeah, it's over here too. It's back over here. It's all the way around, yeah. So I heated it up in here, and then I opened the door, in theory, letting the hot air out. I'm taking all the bedding. I'm gonna wash it and dry it, and then it'll all be dry. But I might have to buy a dehumidifier and just run it all day, every day that I can. Some days I just don't have that kind of power. But I've got like a week of good power at least coming up, so I bought electric heaters, but it'll be an either or thing. I don't think I can run the dehumidifier and an electric heater. But this is really bad, because this is now a health. You know, my health is now, like, I was supposed to go to the desert 8 years ago. It was one of the things the doctor said, and I ended up moving out of the house versus the apartment that was the issue. But it would come back very mildly seasonally, right? Just because Portland is a wet area. Well, this is just as wet. It doesn't, well, it's not just as wet as Portland, but it's still pretty darn wet. But I have totally got to do with something now. And the black mold's in here now. That is a problem. And the floor isn't necessarily solid, right? There's caulking around the edge of the floor that kind of fills what I assume would be this gap around the edge of the floor. Well, that gap, then that goes down to like a metal pan that's just like sitting there. Potentially there's puddles underneath the floor, potentially. I don't know. So, with the dehumidifier, I'll probably be okay, but this is just out of nowhere. I had a little condensation on the ceiling over there when I first insulated, but then that went away when I expanding foamed the crack between the two shipping containers. But the bottoms are totally open. Like the whole story about the concrete not showing up, and then so I couldn't build the walls that go down to the ground that block all that. So I'm just kind of locked into a cold floor. There's nothing I can do about it. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to run a dehumidifier. That's really gonna be the only thing that's gonna save me. And they're not easy to find. Like, I needed to run one in my old apartment, and I don't remember why. It was such a hard thing to actually find and buy. But yeah, I gotta dig out a air conditioner that I bought to see if it has a dehumidifier mode. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is try to dig that thing out, and hopefully it does, and I don't have to go spend a couple $100, almost $300 on a dehumidifier. It's been about 2 weeks since I've been dealing with this. Just got this thing hooked up today. Not sure if it's gonna work correctly because I don't have a way to vent it, but the pictures showed it being run without that hose for drying. So I don't know if it can or not. It hasn't cycled and pumped any water out yet. I've been dealing with the water all the way around. Every day I have to do that just to keep it to a minimum. And I've been trying to get it to dry every single night, but it snowed. And as soon as it snowed, then the humidity in here goes crazy. So I finally got the array built big enough to be able to power, and I mean, literally just had that hooked up and just got enough power to be able to turn something like that on and run it for any amount of time. And I still have to keep an eye on, because clouds could roll in and this thing could just lunch my battery and like, well, not lunch it, but just use all my battery up, and I would be kind of left short. So I gotta be here, gotta have my eyes on this while it's running. So other project I finally got done that I had bought the parts for in the middle of summer was those metal straps. So for the first time, the roof is actually connected to the container in some place where it's just been sitting on containers, which wasn't a problem when there was a container right there. Once that container moved, that all changed. So I put in strap up there. I put straps on this thing, and straps up there. This looks like wonky, but I mean, it's literally just up there to, initially it was up there because I couldn't put anything out here because my tanks, I've got tanks that are going to go big, 2,500 or 3,000 gallons, 2 of them. So their measurements dictate where all the supports are. And this is a remodel, so it's changed. So when I moved that shipping container, I needed to, so initially this was just like up there to support any extra loads, But now it's literally up there to keep the roof from blowing away potentially. I mean, now all this stuff is connected. It will be in the ground at some point, but it was kind of funny because I pay attention to the weather report, and I have a specific app called Windy that gives me good wind reports. And I've been using it since I installed my wind generator over a year ago, or about a year ago or whatever. So I was on there, and I don't know whether I bumped a different location or something, but it said there was going to be 50 mile an hour winds. Now, when there was 37 mile an hour winds here a month or so ago, I had like just a nightmare going on. Stuff was just, the insulation was coming up, and it's all been solved now, but I was like, holy cow, at 37, I was like, at 50. So I got all this put in, and no 50 mile, not even close, not even 37 mile an hour winds. I don't know still have no idea, but it got me to get in there and install that stuff. So now it's all super connected. I feel a lot better. And if the winds are going to get really crazy, I'm just going to park my trailer here and literally put a strap up to so that it would have to blow my trailer away, which, that's not going to happen. So I did get a little bit more work done on insulation. Of the last section I need to do is the door. I still have all the taping to do. As you can see, the duct tape does not work very well. I do not have enough of this black tape to finish. So, and I kind of got to wait for dry times anyhow. So I let it dry out, and then I can tape it. But it's holding together and it's doing fine. I just, like I said, have this one inside of this one door that isn't finished yet. I bought another tank, so I'm going to put that other tank right here. In here. That's my pressure, or my pump. That's my pressure tank. And then I'll have 2 tanks. And this is like the starting of the plumbing. And I just basically was like, it's going to take me so long before I have the concrete poured, because that's like March, before the weather's fine for that. And then to get it poured, and then collect the money to buy the tanks. And then, that's going to be a really long time. So I have 2 tanks. And the theory behind this is I'm going to plumb them together and connect all that, and get a hot water tank as well. an electric water tank, right? That won't be hooked up to electric yet. It'll be hooked up to my diesel generator heater. So when I want hot water, I'll just turn the diesel generator heater. It'll cycle the hot water through the tank with its own pump. So its pump will just cycle that water, and then once the water gets warm enough, boom, I'll have warm water to do stuff with. But yeah, this is the starting of the plumbing. And so I've got an extra all that. So the extra tank is, so I have basically a third. It's about the same size. It's actually a wee bit smaller than those tanks, right? So those two tanks together, the water in there is also thermal mass. It's keeping the battery from getting too cold, maybe even too warm in the summer, right? It's just moderating the temperature right there really, really well. Like having that tank full, hundreds of gallons sitting right there, works really well. Well, there's one tank. It means I fill it up and I empty it out. I fill it up, so its effectiveness is variable, okay? Well, a couple hundred gallons is what I've got in my main container, and it just is pretty amazing how it works. It just totally holds the temperature. Now, once I have everything built out inside there, I won't need that. I'll have, the walls and the shelves and the racks and the shower and the toilet and the sinks and all that stuff will be the thermal mass that now is just this big tank of water, right? Well, on that other side, I fill it up, empty it out, fill it up, empty it out. Well, that's not ideal. So now with two, I'll be able to keep them about half full, make a run, empty the entire tank into there, where now I kind of end up wasting a little bit. So it'll increase my efficiency of using water, and it'll give me that real solid baseline of a couple hundred gallons that's just always sitting there holding the temperature in that room just really well. It's really quite amazing how thermal mass works and keeping the temperatures just perfect. So that's pretty much a quick update compared to what my solar videos have been. I've been working on that solar so much that I literally just excruciating pain in my shoulder, mainly right shoulder, back, neck, just wrecked from just working day in, day out, not stopping for a few weeks on that project before I got it up and running, which I couldn't be happier with the way it's working now. So yeah, I'm just taking a couple days off of doing anything major. Like, I literally just been working so hard on that. I mean, the last day, like mounting those panels, even just wiring it, up above the head, drilling holes through rafters, running wires, all this stuff, hands above the head, just annihilated day in. And when I was finally done, I mean, it was like literally like neck seized up, I just could keep working day in and day out with extreme pain, like way more pain than what I have to deal with. But I wanted this up. I wanted it up so I could have the opportunity to run that dehumidifier, because the humidity right now is that's my biggest problem. Next big project is I got to get up off the floor too. I got to build my bed so the bed isn't on the floor, and that will decrease the amount of freaking condensation that's able to build up around it as well. So all right, and like and subscribe for another fascinating video. Peace.